Achievers, this is Scott Sycamore's enhanced interrogation of Chris and Sheree of Truth Frequency. Fire thrusters.
The people, the man and woman themselves, Chris and Sheree, are you there?
We're here, and thank you very much for having us on the show. We've listened to a couple of the past episodes, and we really, really like what you do. One thing, if I can compliment you on, is the professionalism that you seem to have. You seem to have really good equipment, good delivery. It's definitely above par. I've noticed a lot of half-assed radio shows, excuse my language, and they just don't quite grasp the concept of good equipment. So I really enjoy what you're doing.
I thank you so much for that. And, I really have you to thank, because I remember talking to you on Facebook probably a couple years ago now. And I was like, hey, how do I do a radio show? How do I get it on there? And I think I forgot exactly what you told me, but you wrote an article that appeared not that soon or not that long after. All about the equipment to use and how anyone can get their radio show started. And so I feel like I annoyed you so much, and I was the straw that broke the camel's back, where you just like, okay, I'm going to write an article and address this for everybody.
It's never an annoyance. Never, never. You actually inspired me. That's the proper term, inspired, to write that article. So I really appreciate hearing that it's been well received and people are actually utilizing the information.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are getting it out there. That's what you do. You get the information out there. So let's start with that. What inspired you guys to do this in the first place and to have a show and all that?
Well, how far back do you want us to go? All the way back to the beginning, or to the beginning of the radio show?
Before the beginning, even. But yeah, beginning of the show. Yeah.
A pretty interesting union. Sheree and I were both on the Prison Planet forum. Mm-hmm. I was a troll. She was the moderator. Mm-hmm. And she was doing a little troll hunting. And her job was to keep an eye on the trolls, which included myself.
Well, the global mods basically assigned him to me to watch him, to make sure he didn't, start trolling too heavily. And I fell in love with him on accident.
Aw.
I really did.
And
never an accident. Yeah.
We talked for like 2 years, maybe longer than that.
3 years, yeah.
Never even thought about it. We were always just professional contacts with each other. We would exchange information, research, things like that. And then one day, all of a sudden, I said, hey, do you want to go see David Icke with me? And I was just kind of joking, but kind of not joking, but, kind of joke. I just kind of threw it out there. And she lived about 3.5 hours away from me. And she says, yeah, I want to go. And I said, okay, let's go. And so I went and picked her up. We drove all the way to Santa Fe from Texas, and we haven't been apart since. And at the time when we were listening to Alex Jones, he kept saying, start your own radio show, over and over and over again. And I've got to thank a radio show called Ghost of the Republic, and it's by two broadcasters called Ghost Dog and Paranoid. Paranoid's a really, really good friend of mine. He's become a personal, real-life friend of mine. We've done some music together, too. ChrisGeo.com. You can hear the latest tune from the upcoming album, and Paranoid's actually the one doing the second verse. So we've become really, really good friends. But they actually invited me on their show to talk about some truth music, and they showed me how easy it was to start a radio show. So I met Sheree, and the natural progression was to start the show. Mm-hmm. And what was even funnier is I was working on the album Global Resistance, and I bought a preamp, and it was just one off the rack. It was like a used one that they had up there, not a used one, a floor model at Guitar Center. And I said, yeah, I'll take that one without even looking at it. And I got it home and I messed with it, and I realized, shoot, this is the wrong kind of preamp. This is for broadcasting, not for vocals. So I had this broadcasting preamp just staring me in the face this whole time because they wouldn't return it. And so I thought, oh, wow, that's funny how the universe is just making these confirmations and saying, do this, do that. Here it is. I've already given you everything you need.
Yeah, they throw it. It gets crazy like that, how the things appear in front of you that you couldn't have seen coming just the day before, even whether it's your soulmate or your preamp, right? I'm sure you found many instances like that.
It's all about the synchronicities. We've got to follow the synchronicities in life. When we do, then the universe opens doors for us. When we don't follow the synchronicities is when we begin to fall. And it's kind of hard sometimes to listen to the synchronicities because sometimes the universe tells you things that are contrary to your beliefs, contrary to your missions, your goals. But you just have to go with it. And the only time that I have fallen, which I have fallen many, many times in this progression, is when I don't listen to my intuition and I don't look out for the synchronicities.
Yeah, it's almost like we're trained to not listen to our instincts.
Right.
Even though you hear that a lot, but it's almost like there's at every turn you're pushed to a different fork in the road. No, don't really do what you want or what makes you happy or what's your joy. Hedge your bets and do the safe thing, or just do something different that's not so rocking the boat. But that's not the way to make waves and make history, I don't think.
I don't think that's the right way to go about things in this day and age. I mean, when you look at
Hello.
The natural progression of mankind would be to listen to our instincts, and then by going on those instincts, we move forward in leaps and bounds, and that's what we were supposed to do. But because there is a system involved that keeps us in a state of fear of whatever, losing our job or not being accepted by our peers or what have you, we don't progress.
Well, you're absolutely right. I can take that on a 5 cents reality basis and just talk about my experiences with my regular day business. I worked for a company for about 3 years as a contractor, and I was making just a small percentage of what I could have been making, but I kept staying there because I was secure. I knew a paycheck would come every 2 weeks, and I stayed there longer than I should have. And then when I started my own business, it was the scariest thing in the world, but in hindsight, it was the best thing that I ever did. But that's what the mind does. The mind will step in and say, no, don't listen to your heart. Use logic. You need to be safe. You need to have that paycheck every 2 weeks. What if you don't get jobs? What if you do this? What if you don't do that? 10 years in business, and I've never gone broke once. I've come close to going broke. Don't get me wrong. And it is kind of intense when you don't know when your next dollar's coming in or where it's coming in from. But point of the story, though, is that the universe never lets you down.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of people who do have that so-called security that are still, dealing with these financial issues and not making it and everything. That's like the new reality all across this nation.
Oh, well, that's done by design. If you can keep the people focused on how they're going to pay their bills every month, then they're not going to worry about what's going on in the White House. They're not going to worry about what the banks are doing. They're not going to worry about any of that, because they're focused on feeding their families. And you don't know how many times I've spoken to people and I've asked them, so what do you think about this situation? Or what do you think about that situation? And they reply, well, I try not to think about that. I just kind of think about my own reality around here and how I can feed my family. And that's exactly where they want us.
Yeah, I mean, to quote Bush, I know how hard it is to put food on your family.
Exactly.
Yeah, my friend was telling me the other day, because we're here in LA and the space shuttle was coming through here, right, on the back of a truck, basically.
I saw that.
Yeah, and my friend asked his coworker, like, what do you think about the space shuttle? And the coworker said, man, I got bills to pay. Can't think about all that.
Right.
And that's hardly anything, truthy. It's just basic events.
Well, you want to hear something funny? I got into it with a telemarketer earlier today. I like to mess with these people. I used to get mad when they call because they disturb whatever I'm doing. But now I just decided to have fun. I need to start recording these and putting it on YouTube.
Yes.
It was the Colorado Conservation something or another. And they were calling, and the first thing out of her mouth was, well, Barack Obama decided we wanted a national monument here in Colorado, and Barack Obama gave us that national monument in the form of blah, blah, blah. I don't remember what she said. And she said, I think we should thank Barack Obama for this and that. And I stopped her right there and I said, whoa. What about the stuff going on in Libya? What about the complete coup of a leader that gave his population everything? And I just started naming off all of these different political issues. And she says, well, I don't know anything about that. And I said, well, good. I'm glad you called. Let me tell you about it. She says, no, I don't want to hear about it. I said, so wait a minute, you're doing political activism for Barack Obama, but you don't want to hear what's going on. Okay, I see how it is. And then I got her supervisor on the phone, actually.
Yeah.
And her supervisor said, well, we just called for a poll and we just want to ask a few questions. And I said, okay, what question is that? And she says, well, first of all, would you dedicate 2 hours a week for the Obama campaign? And I said, look, I dedicate 3 hours twice a week, every Friday from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Central to expose the kind of hypocrisy that goes on in government. And these people are just taken aback, but it just goes to show the sheep mentality of, okay, I'm going to campaign for Obama. I'm going to do this and do that, but I don't care what the facts are.
La, 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 la.
Exactly.
I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Yep.
No, they can't. Now, but don't you think to commit oneself to something, even on that level, it sort of takes a willful ignorance of not seeing all the bad stuff?
Oh, absolutely. It's willful. At that point, you don't campaign for people that don't support the Constitution. We've already established this over and over and over again. And the fact that these people know enough about politics to actually campaign for them means that they, on some level, have to be willfully ignorant, not just ignorant.
Let me ask you a question, if you don't mind. Were you the gentleman on Facebook that got into it with Pizza Hut over the credit card?
No, that wasn't me. I'm not even.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sure.
There's another guy. I want to say his name is Jordan, but it could be Jason. But he was doing some activism like that, just making people stick to the rules of the credit cards everywhere he was going. So, and you know, that was his little niche. That's what he did. But it was still pretty funny to watch. I thought that was you.
No. Well, my name's Scott around here, but we won't mention that. But yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if I said that, but yeah, we have so many names, as Al Pacino says in The Devil's Advocate. But yeah, but no, that wasn't me. That sounds fascinating. No, I don't think I'd get into it with Pizza Hut. Haven't eaten there in many years.
I don't either.
Oh, no.
It's plastic. It literally is plastic. 50% silicone, 50% cheese. On the cheese, it says not for human consumption. Come on, people. What are we doing?
Yeah. I mean, when you're making Domino's look like freaking, I don't know, tasty, organic, wholesome fare, then you're doing something wrong, I would say.
Speaking of, I heard that Hugh Grant, I want to say president of Monsanto, is a big health nut, and he's all about organic.
Hugh Grant?
Yes. Not the actor.
Not the transvestite picking up actor.
No. The head of Monsanto.
Right, who just got named like CEO of the year by CEO magazine or something?
Yes, he's all about organic.
Right, of course. In his own
home.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, these types, the Mitt Romneys, the Hugh Grants, or whoever he is, they're not exactly consuming the same things we are they?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, the monarchy has fields and fields of land that is untouched, and it's only producing food for the royal families. And if you cross those lines, you get shot immediately.
Yep.
You're absolutely right. But, you know, let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Yeah.
It might be bad for me to say this, but we do have a population problem. Not that, you know, we can take, like somebody mentioned on our show, we can take all the population and put them on Massachusetts and line them up one by one. That's not the type of population problem I'm talking about. The type of population problem is that we don't have the resources. Mother Earth just simply can't spit out enough of what we're consuming. So we either have to lower the population or we have to be a little smarter with our resources. I move for the latter.
Yeah, like there may be enough actual food for everybody, but is there enough good food, non-GMO, organic?
Exactly. If we went all organic, there'd be no way in hell that we would be able to feed everybody on this planet. There's just no way.
Right. And so for the foreseeable future, it's almost like it's necessary we have this crappy Pizza Hut-like food, right?
Well,
unfortunately, that's the corner that we've backed ourselves into. And it's because of a lack of responsibility, personal responsibility. People like you and I, we know not to have 10 kids. I mean, we can barely take care of ourselves, much less have 10 kids. I have a dear friend, and I love her to death, but she just told me she's having her 4th baby. She's on welfare. She's on food stamps. She's living in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 kids already, and she's having another baby. And I'm thinking to myself, the first thing I said was, do you think that's a good idea? And do you think you can take care of it? And then now she wants to move to Colorado, and she asks, can you find me a 2-bedroom apartment? And I said, well, wait a minute. You've got 4 kids, you and your husband. What's going on? And she says, oh, the kids can share a bedroom and then the baby can stay with us in the bedroom. This is the type of, number one, it's lowered the standard of living. But number two, this is the type of mentality that has to stop. We have to take the responsibility for ourselves.
I would much rather have 2 healthy, happy children than have 4 unhealthy, miserable, not getting enough attention type of kids.
Well, I can tell you from my personal experience that I used to have 6 dogs. I had land, so I had the room for them. I would rescue them because people would shoot them out there in the country because they would turn rabid. They would start to form packs and start to eat pets and whatever they could. So I would try to save them before that happened and then rehome them. I couldn't pay any attention to him when I had 6. I have 1 now, and he goes everywhere with me. He eats everything that I eat. He is the most spoiled dog in the world. But it just goes to show I can focus my energy better on that. Now that I've said all this, though, I do want to say that it is nobody's responsibility except for the individual to reduce the population. It is a complete sin against nature, against human rights to do any type of depopulation, soft kill weapons, vaccines, all of this garbage that they're pushing upon the human race. If the human race is destined to destroy itself from overpopulation, well, that's its destiny, but nobody has a right to play God.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a clip of Aldous Huxley, who's mentioned quite frequently in these conspiracy circles, in like 1958, talking about how overpopulation would lead to tyranny, basically, sort of directly, but he called it an impersonal force, I believe, which is strange because it's quite personal. The stuff just like you were talking about right there, people having too many kids, but it's a natural extension. If we overstuff ourselves, then negative consequences will happen.
Right. It's a travesty. It really is. I mean, we're acting as parasites upon Mother Earth, and Mother Earth is going to shake off her parasites if we don't start acting right.
Well, it's the problem of not being able to stop. We're addicted to stuff. We're addicted to gasoline. We're addicted to every single thing that you think about every day that you use. You're addicted to it.
Everything you pay for.
Right. Yeah. Your iPhone. You're addicted to your iPhones out there, ladies and gentlemen. You really are. Try giving your iPhone to a friend for a day. You won't be able to go through with it. After 3 or 4 hours, you're going to want your iPhone back because you want to see who messaged you on Facebook.
Here's the crux of the situation, though. The same people who are creating this overly useful, overuse of natural resources, gasoline, energy, things like that, the ones who have stopped free energy technology, the ones who have stopped electric car technology are the same ones behind these depopulation plans.
Right. And it's because you got to play multiple sides, right? There's 3 sides to every story, and they want to write them all.
Exactly.
And I would say to further on this point for a second, it's this interesting paradox because we have this overpopulation that you could easily see in the major city areas, and yet you go a little bit outside of these places, and it's miles upon miles of nothing with no people. Right. So we get a little bit of both. It's like you said, what did you say? Every person in America could fit into Massachusetts or something like that.
Every person in the world.
Every person in the world, if you were spaced out like a couple feet apart. Yeah. But we can't live there's no possible way to live like that. So it presents interesting issues for the actual good engineers and whatnot of today and the future to actually solve these problems, whether it's the Venus Project or whatever form it's going to take, Well,
it's a catch-22 when you really think about it, because on the one hand, we don't want anybody to control what we put in our bodies, what we eat, what we drink, what we decide to smoke or not smoke. It shouldn't be up to anybody but us. But then on the other hand, we keep experiencing all of these disasters, ecological disasters, one of them being the recent sinkhole in Louisiana, for instance.
Don't know that one. Yeah.
You don't know about the sinkhole in Louisiana?
It sounds familiar, but brush me up real quick.
Basically 4 acres wide, full of oil and nasty stuff. And there's a well not too far away from it that has 1.5 million barrels of liquid butane. Mm-hmm. And they're saying that all of this is because of the BP oil spill, which is still going on, by the way. It never stopped. And basically it's all collapsing now. And all it would take would be, a spark to blow a lot of those people up to smithereens, essentially. And now we're having military bases having strange explosions. And, of course, the military is saying, oh, that was totally planned for one of our bunkers to blow up in Louisiana. Oh, that was totally planned. And I don't think it was.
Right. It just exploded
yesterday.
Half a mile mushroom cloud over Louisiana.
Yeah.
Oh, so it did catch fire.
Yeah, it did explode. Well, one of their bases exploded.
They're saying it was at one of their military bases, and it was an underground bunker.
Wow.
I don't know how much of this I'm believing anymore out of the mainstream media, because it seems like there's been a big blackout from anything coming from the people living there ever since last week.
Well, that's the same with the BP oil spill.
Right.
It's the same with the Batman shooter.
Mm-hmm.
Total media blackout.
Right.
Of relevant facts. Now, what was blacked out in regards to the Batman shooter? Are you talking about like a second person sort of thing?
Something leaked, actually. Number one, let me just start by saying that the judge ordered all media out. No media is allowed at all. And then a few things leaked, and the judge got after the prosecutors, the police, and things like that for leaking this information. A witness came forward and said that he was one of the original witnesses, one of the original, not victims because he didn't get shot, but one of the original people. Well, maybe he did get shot. I don't remember exactly the detail, but he was there, and one of the original people that the media first spoke to. And he said that there were multiple shooters, not just one, but there were multiple shooters. And they threw that testimony completely out of court, said it was frivolous, and said the guy was never even there. Now, when we started looking at this, we noticed that they were using the same 2 or 3 actors. And I call them actors for a reason, because it looked like they were reading a script the entire time. There was one guy who it was totally obvious that he was reading a script. And they were messing up on their lines between interviews. Yeah, they did 3 or 4 of them. I put them all together, compared them, and I'm 99.9% sure that they were actors. There was another guy there saying that his son got shot, and I found him actually in another video from another protest during the Occupy movement. And it's like, is the coincidence of all these people being at the exact same event? If that's not strange enough, one of the quote unquote victims at the Batman shooting was a intern for Fox News who happened to also be at the Toronto shooting and supposedly survived.
Oh my God.
Yes.
It's such a small world.
Right. What are the odds? I've never been in any shootings.
Yeah, well, I guess like attracts like. You can't just do one shooting anymore. I mean, That's so passé. So 5 years ago, just do one shoot, be involved in one shooting. But now, see, this will display my temporary ignorance. But what is this Toronto shooting?
There was another one that took place a couple of months prior to that. I don't recall the actual facts behind it. I didn't look into that one as much because I got on the show and I said, look, we're going to see a shooting pretty much every week, if not every 2 weeks, because they're trying to pass this UN gun ban. Sure enough, that's exactly what we saw. So maybe it's a downfall of mine, but I just kind of shut things out sometimes. What? It's the same thing over and over and over again. Okay, let's move on to something else. Sheree.
But I, on the other hand, do the research.
She does. I do have to
yes. And from what I understand about the Toronto shooting, I haven't done a whole lot of research on it because whenever I hear the word Canada, I immediately my brain just kind of shuts off for some reason.
Yeah, who doesn't?
It's like it's Canada. Nothing ever really bad happens in Canada. But yeah, the Toronto shooting was a false flag op that was sort of like the Anders Breivik shooting in Norway, except it wasn't as racially charged at all. But it was about 6 months before the Aurora shooting. So what are the odds that within a half a year, a girl is at, a completely different shooting, other side of the United States, and is murdered?
Well, the thing about the Aurora shooting is it happened about 15 miles from where we live.
Right.
And we were 15 miles away, and we weren't involved in that shooting. And this woman was involved twice in a shooting.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah. So you guys, you're on board with this. I won't call it a theory, but this whole meme that spouted up, that spread recently in the last year or so of actors playing different roles in different actual events, media events, and just pulling a real fast one on the public, like a news level acting job.
Well, I wouldn't say we're on board with anything, but I do have to say that Dallas Goldbug did bring some information to the table, and I agree, 80-90% of it is not good information. And I've told him before, look, dude, come on the show, let's talk about some of this, but I really suggest you just back off a little bit, because some of you have some really, really good information, but then you have a bunch of really bad information that's easily disproven, and then it makes the good information look bad. But at least, I do have to say, at least he got me looking at these events in a different perspective. And when you do look at it from a different perspective, you do realize that, a lot of this is controlled. Even Amber Lyon, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She was fired from Fox News just recently because she came out and said, well, all the news is scripted. The government is telling us what to report on and what not to report on. I wanted to report the truth, so Fox News canned me.
What?
Yes.
You tell me they're not truthful there? No. Interview over. Cut his mic. You're done.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the gold bugs and all them of the world, it's sort of like anyone else. They have this real information, but maybe their personal bias gets in the way and they overreach. But there's a kernel of something true there.
I believe that we can find truth in anything, even the mainstream media. I mean, I read Aleister Crowley. I read the Bible. I pull wisdom and knowledge out of pretty much everything. Because if it's a completely 100% bullshit, then nobody's going to believe it. Nobody's going to buy it. They have to inject it with a good amount of truth in order for people to believe it. And so you can pick out the truths as long as you use your discernment and your intuition.
Do you think people out there are too much looking for one person or one source that's this perfect objective vessel of truth that they can just completely trust? Do you think that's sort of a fault of truth seekers out there?
I wouldn't say it's a fault as in a negative term. It is definitely a fault, but I would say that it's the natural progression to spiritual evolution and opening your eyes. I can tell you from my experience, when I first heard about this, I was stuck on Alex Jones. I watched all his documentaries, listened to the radio show. I even have a bullhorn that looks exactly like his. I was out bullhorning people. I was out doing all this saying, I know the truth. I know the truth. Then when you start to realize how little you actually know and how much there is to learn, then you start going, okay, wait a minute. I really don't know anything. And then Plato, I think it was, who said it best. I know one thing for sure, and that's that I know nothing.
Yeah, like you start using the Socratic method or whatnot and really breaking it down and being objective within yourself. And then that can remove a lot of the, how would you call it, hubris or overstepping from your own position.
Exactly.
The bullhorn.
I would tell everybody to be very, very cautious when looking at a piece of information. Be cautious of their own bias. For me, for instance, I'm a UFO buff. I love UFOs. When I was a kid, I used to watch all these UFO documentaries, and it was because I believed that I was abducted when I was a young child, and again when I was about 20. But I do know for a fact that my parents took me to a psychiatrist because I kept telling them that little aliens were coming into my room, and they convinced me that they weren't. But every time I look at a UFO, because of my own personal beliefs, because of my own personal biases, every time I see something in the sky, I have to be 100 times more skeptical than the average person. Otherwise, I'm not going to get to the truth. Otherwise, I'm going to look at just anything and go, oh, yeah, that's a UFO. So I urge everybody to be 1,000 times more skeptical than the average person when looking at information so you can get your own biases out of the way.
Yeah, belief leads to skepticism in a smart mind, you might say.
Yes.
There's some great I would like to hear more about that, about your especially older age abduction phenomenon.
Okay.
Touch on it real quick. Let's hear this.
I've talked about it on the show before, and at first I was saying that it was just a dream. And that's, up until about a year ago, it wasn't until I started to acknowledge that, yeah, it's probably a real event. And this is after I started speaking to a lot of ufologists and people who studied abductions, and they said, hey, your story parallels a lot of what we've heard before. So I was about 20, 21 years old in the rave scene, wasn't thinking about aliens at all, wasn't thinking about conspiracies, wasn't thinking about anything except for women, women and partying. That's all I was doing. And one night, I woke up and I saw these 3 doctors standing over my bed, and they kind of transported me on this invisible gurney out the front door. And I remember I see the front doors flying open. Then I black out. Then I wake up and I'm sitting in this desk and I see these 3 doctors again. And one standing behind me. I didn't actually see him, but I could feel his presence. And there was actually, I guess there were 4, because there was one behind me, one in front of me sitting down, and then 2 standing next to him. And they had my arm down on the desk. And they looked like the doctors from the 1950s with those big kooky mirrors on their head, but their faces were blurred out. I mean, they looked human at this point, at least until this juncture. And they put my hand down on the desk and they said, what are you afraid of? They just kept asking me telepathically, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? And I just kept replying, look, I'm not afraid of anything. I'm just confused as to what's going on. I'm really groggy. I'm confused. That's all I kept saying. And they injected something into my arm. And they said, what are you afraid of? It's already over. And I was like, okay, whatever. And I just blacked out. Then I woke up again and I was sitting in this kind of dentist chair. And I can see this counter that was in my mind, and it was counting down from this really, really large number. And I had something around my head, and I felt like if I was blacking my mind out, if I was not thinking of anything, I could see this counter in my head and I could make it stop. But it was just so difficult to just keep that blackness in my mind, the blankness in my mind, and the only thing I could do was just kind of give in and let the counter count down to 0. Once it counted down to 0, I was able to move again. Now, let me also note that this room was really, really brightly lit. I mean, so bright that I couldn't see anything. I could see a silhouette of somebody standing at some machine a little bit away from me, and that was it. And I got up, groggy as hell again, and just started kind of bouncing around. And I walked into this, window, invisible wall, something like that. I don't know what it was.
Right.
And then this being came and put his hand on me and kind of directed me in the right direction, and I blacked out again. Then I woke up in my living room, but it wasn't my living room. There were no walls, but all the furniture from my living room was there, and there was a spotlight shining down from above. In the very distance, I can see what I can only describe as movie theater lights. You know, those lights on the floor? It looked like there were similar lights like that, creating a light for a pathway. And so I started looking around and really paying attention to where I was. And I could see like tiers and tiers and tiers of different levels in this building that I'm in. And I'm walking around and going, where the hell am I? I'm not in my living room, even though it looks like my living room. It's not my living room. And I could see where this room with this bright light was coming from, and I believe that that's the room that I was previously in. It was like on the 4th or 5th tier. And then this woman appears in front of me, and she is wearing a flower headband, and she has this red kind of suede type of outfit, kind of like 16th century kind of princess, or maybe even flower child kind of outfit. It's hard to describe. But she was floating. She was more of an apparition. And she says, "Don't worry, you've just been tested." And I said, "What does that mean?" And then I feel these cold hands on the back of my neck. And they were long, cold hands. And then I heard her voice again. And she says, "Whatever you do, don't turn around and you won't remember a thing." And I said, well, I want to remember this. Why wouldn't I want to remember this? And I turn around, and standing in one of the balconies, I see this door opening, and the tiers were dark, but as the door opened, it let light come through. And there were these 3 beings, 2 of them which turned around and were walking into the doorway, and one standing with his hands on the rail looking at me. And these things were probably about 6 or 7 feet. They were gray, not typical gray, though. They were more of a white than gray. But they look like the grays, and they were really liquid looking. That's the only way that I can explain them. Kind of like the beings in the end of AI, the movie Artificial Intelligence. They were just really liquidy moving. And I went to scream, and as soon as the scream came out of my throat, boom, awake in my bed. Not in between. No going from asleep to awake. None of that. Just boom, awake in my bed. My arm was sore for 3 days, and I got this really creepy feeling as soon as I woke up, like something's here, I'm being watched or something like that. And I stumble into the kitchen, grab a glass of water, and try to go back to bed.
Your own personal communion.
Yes, it was. And, I called it a dream for the longest time. But it's funny because the more that I accept the fact that it was real, the more at ease I am with it.
Now, but at the end there, you were frightened. You said you were screaming, basically, right? And then
it was just such an unearthly, unnatural sight that my first reaction was to scream at this. Even though they really didn't have any intention to hurt me, I didn't feel any intention to hurt me. As a matter of fact, just thinking about the experience, I felt like they really weren't. They were kind of like scientists. They weren't there to make me as comfortable as possible. They didn't give me, cushioned pillows and stuff like this. But they didn't hurt me. And I think what they were more after was my experiences, things that were in my brain. I hear this thing about anal probes, and I hear all this, and I can't help but wonder if some of these stories are disinformation to kind of weed out the people that are BSing versus the people that are actually telling the truth. Because my experience was nothing like this. The grays weren't 3 feet. They were more like 6 or 7 feet. But then it's possible that there were several different beings out there, or it's still possible that it was just a dream.
But one way or another, it led you down this path that spurred you on to this information society and doing all this truth related.
It did,
work,
it did
right?
interest me. It did spark my interest again in ufology, which led to me listening to Coast, which I heard Brooks Agnew on, and I thought, wow, what a great show. This would be awesome to do something like this. And then I looked at Alex Jones. I actually was listening to Coast, and I heard a round table with Alex Jones and 2 other people on 9/11, and Alex was just like, rah, 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 rah. And so I was like, holy shit, this is great. So then I started listening to Alex Jones, and then it kind of progressed from there.
Yeah, and now when a so-called skeptic would hear your story and be like, a disinformation agent rears his head. If
I'm a disinfo agent, then I'm still waiting for my check because I haven't seen it yet. Well,
and it's just like it's like certain issues that you bring up in everyday life. As soon as you say a keyword, as soon as you bring up the topic of abortion and you bring up the idea that maybe you shouldn't be fighting for babies' rights if you're not willing to fight for their rights after they grow up, their right to be sexual with whoever they want, the right to marry whoever they want, the right to, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, essentially, have as many kids as they want. It's gotten to the point where that's pretty much a code word for them to just attack you relentlessly because you support abortion. When that wasn't even the point. It's that we don't support abortion. That's
straw man arguments, cherry picking.
Right.
The trivium encompasses a lot of this. And I do have to thank Jan Irvin, triviumeducation.com, for introducing me to the trivium. Mm-hmm. And it's about using logic, rhetoric, and grammar properly in order to understand reality around us. I would go so far as to say that the trivium is flawed because it leaves out the sixth sense, which is intuition. And without intuition, logic, rhetoric, grammar, all that can lead you down the wrong way by people who understand logic and grammar and rhetoric, and they can write stuff to lead you in a certain direction.
Right. The controllers use those exact things against all of us,
right.
Make it sound nice, but it's deceptive. Right. Now, how are you treated by the trolls and the haters out there at this point?
Oh, they love us. They're great. They send us flowers.
Right.
They make donations. They're the best people in the world.
I believe that. Yeah, because not to promote these things, but I told my friend I was going to interview you guys, and he's like, watch out there, man. Some of these people are controlled ops. And he sends me this Chris Geo deception blog thing. I didn't read it. It's in here somewhere, but
well,
I don't know.
It says that I'm a pedophile. It says that I beat Sheree. It says that I have her under psychedelic mind control. It says that I rape her every time we go to bed, and that she no longer consents to sex, and it's all RPG-style sex games. It's,
I'm in so much pain from being raped repeatedly every day for the past 3 years.
I'm flattered. But
wow.
what it did come out, what spawned all of that is our investigation into some of the people who are controlled, and we brought out some really
hard-hitting information,
dirty secrets of people involved with the FBI and the police, and handing people over to get arrested, and sending in informants into certain areas. And we brought all that to the surface. So of course they don't like that. But we have nothing on us. So all they can do is make personal attacks. That's it.
Right.
Who would know better about what you do personally than some random person on the internet?
Right.
Exactly.
Do you feel you dug too deep in this particular instance of bringing out this information?
No, because I will never apologize for the truth. I never will.
It's a decent policy.
Yeah, that's what we're here to do. Now, I don't want to go digging around on people, but if you fling shit at us for so long, well, then we're going to wonder, why are you flinging shit, and what are you trying to cover up by all the shit flinging? We like to keep a positive broadcast. We try not to talk bad about people. The people that we do the people that we don't want to associate with, we just try to ignore and just move on and do our own thing. But it happens.
If we ever do attack people, it's because of the information that they're putting out there. It's incorrect, and we don't attack.
Well, it's not even an attacking people. I mean, that's a healthy debate.
Exactly.
When you're exchanging information and you're saying, hey, I've got this information here. You say it's wrong. Let's have a healthy debate. But I'm always really weary of people that start calling people pedophiles, abusers, wife abusers, child abusers,
junkies,
things like that, junkies,
all of that.
Because that seems to be the basic COINTELPRO rhetoric. And if you want to fall for it, then they can fall for it. I'm not gonna lose any sleep over it or anything.
Yeah, if the people want to believe, that want to see that, and take it in to themselves. Because, if someone calls you a pedophile, you can't really fight back on that. I mean, you just can say, no, I'm not, and what more can you do? You can't prove that you're not. But it's a great thing. They put you in that double, triple bind of no, I say you're bad, so.
Well, here's another one of the methods is that we had a pretty big show. We have a pretty big show. We started off really, really big. Joe Rogan wrote us a fan mail and said, I'd like to come on your show. I love what you're doing. So that meant that we were getting somewhere. As soon as that happened, that's when all of this shit really went down. But what they want you to do is respond in the same way so they can bring you back down to their level. These people that are throwing this shit, they have nothing to lose. So they're nobodies. They have such a bad reputation. They have reputations of working with the feds multiple times. They have reputations of just stalking people and just giving people a hard time and all of this. So they have nothing to lose. But people like us, we interview some of the biggest names out there. Just imagine if we brought this stuff to David Icke and said, hey, David Icke, listen to all this backbiting that's going on. How would that make us look? Right. Or even if we were responding to it. So it's part of their trick to try to lower you down to that level.
Yeah, it's going down to their vibrato, their vibration.
Well, not just that, but their level of, of this alternative movement. They want you to stoop down to their level so that it keeps your mind off of the real issues, off of the real things that your listeners want to talk about and want to hear about. They don't want to hear about backbiting and hillbilly stuff. They want to hear about real things going on.
Yeah, there's this concerted effort. It's so easy to see now of getting this infighting amongst people.
Well, I would make the distinction, though, that we're not on their side. When we expose people that are working with the feds, we're not on their side.
Oh, no.
So this isn't infighting.
No, that's not
That's
infighting.
one of the tricks that the truth movement has been able to use on people. Whenever somebody's exposed as being a Fed or working with the feds, they say, you're infighting. You're
You're just trying to cause division.
Right. And no. We need to make that distinction.
Very true. Very true. Very true. Good putting it that way. You're right, because that terminology, that trivium, that grammar does not apply equally to each side.
Exactly.
Like you're saying. Now, let me ask this. I just want to ask, Sheree, do you still go by social student the moniker?
You know, I have a few accounts on some things that are socio student. For the most part, I just kind of use our accounts for everything nowadays. But yeah, that is my Facebook email. I remembered that from a couple years back. I just like the name. So yeah. I just thought it was a good name, and I wasn't sure if you still sort of using it. I use the name, although I'm not really a student anymore, except a student of just generalized knowledge.
Life with a capital L.
I do have to say, though, when was the last time you used the name? Because we have had a phenomenon where people will go around in different chat rooms and forums and post as one of us and create havoc.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you're referring to anything recent, but at least to my knowledge, I don't think you've used it in several years.
Yeah, I haven't. Well, I haven't used it in several years.
That's about when I remember it from, probably 3-4 years ago. But yeah. But no, I would never pay attention to the copiers or the fakers out there if they exist on that level. And
just to let everybody know, if you're doubtful or if you have any doubts about whether or not it's me, if I'm attacking other people, it's probably 99% not me, because you can ask Chris. I'm one of the most shrug it off kinds of people in the world. People can leave mean comments on my YouTube all day long, and although it'll hurt on the inside a little bit, I'm not gonna start a flame war with anybody over anything. I have way too much to do, way too much research to do otherwise. Right. So, but yeah, that's socio student for you. That's my socio student persona. Is I'm all research, I'm all facts, and none of your little high school bull crap is going to stop me from doing what I'm doing.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's a high school bull crap. I mean, when I encountered this, I thought, my God, I left high school years ago, and here we are all over again. That's not really why I started this or why I got into this. I got into this so I can spread the message of truth and infinite consciousness and all the stuff that we've talked about, and interview some of these great guests and all of that. But it's really a shitstorm, and it's really sad, because if we were weaker-willed and weaker-minded people, then we would have stepped away from this a long time ago and said, you know what, this is all shit. This is all just people just flinging shit at each other. It's just, what is it? This is ridiculous. But instead, we go, you know what, let's back off. Let's do our own thing.
Right.
And we're not alternative media. We're independent media, 100% independent.
Right, exactly. And that's why in the past several months, we've tried to redesign ourselves, go back to our roots, Chris with his music, me with my research, and really just find ourselves again, because it's been such a whirlwind of the last 3 years that we really need to get back to our roots, essentially.
I do have to admit, I was pretty disillusioned with everything. I mean, everything from the Alex Jones stuff to even the other places that we landed afterwards, and seeing how they operate on the inside, and finding all of these connections to people getting arrested, informants being planted. I don't know if you read the article, but we really went into all kinds of facts and details about people's involvement with Edna Lane Brown, and how a local network in Austin, Texas, not GCN, not RBN, not Oracle, so people can just deduce and figure out for themselves which one I'm talking about, but how they were connected to bringing in this informant that brought down Edna Lane Brown, and then they have another informant on their network now. And, I thought to myself, wow, I mean, I almost did quit, just not because of anything that they did, but simply because I have better stuff to do with my life. I can go out and make $10,000 or $15,000 with my business a month if I wasn't focusing on what I'm doing now. I mean, we're making very, very little money, even with my business. So, it's a work of passion. It's a work of love, really. But there was a time that I thought to myself, hey, I'll just go do what I'm doing before, and then I can take Sheree around the world, and we can go visit Egypt, and we can go to Thailand and study with the monks, and we can go to South America and study with the shaman, and focus on ourselves instead of focusing on other people.
It's a beautiful thing, man. Whatever course you're choosing to do your thing. All right, so we've got a few minutes left. We'll do this hour-long thing. Oh man, there's so much to get to.
My point to saying all of that, I forgot. I just want to say this, is that I think that sometimes that's what the goal of these people are. And maybe that's why it is so controlled and it is so covered in shit. I know I've cussed a lot this evening, so please forgive me, but
I can't handle that.
Okay, yeah. Good. You can use the little beeps. I've got a little beep thing here I can send you. So
send me your
it's
beep
covered
program.
in so much shit to keep the real people from getting involved. The way I see it, I don't know if I'm being narcissistic about this, egocentric, whatever, but the way I see it, I know for a fact that Sheree and I are not controlled. I know that. If these people are controlled and we are starting to climb the ladder, they're all sitting back and going, hey, wait a minute, that's not one of ours. Who the hell are these people? Shut them down as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm. Are they from the 512?
Yeah.
Nope. Okay, take them down.
Right. I mean, it's just a theory that I have, but from my personal perspective, it makes sense. A lot of people will be skeptical. Oh, who's this Chris Geo guy? Blah, 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 blah. That's fine. I don't give a shit. You can say whatever you want. From my perspective, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, someone's always going to have a problem with someone else. They're going to find a problem. And in this sort of stuff, touching on really real, true, important things, I mean, if you don't exactly line up with someone else's biases, then they're going to find a way to try to tear you down, even if they're not so-called controlled, because you don't exactly fit their model of the world. And that's this infighting, in quotes, that's been going on. It's everyone's a flawed individual, and that they're some people are just addicted to drama.
Well, all the major stations are within a 15-mile radius from each other.
The major
alternative media stations, yeah.
Oh, you mean now where?
Oracle,
it's in Texas? Or?
RBN,
yeah,
Oracle,
Austin,
AFR, GCN. All within a 15-mile radius of each other.
512 area code.
I wonder why that is.
How alternative of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you guys relocated, right?
To get away from all of that. Yeah.
We away from there as quickly as possible.
Yeah, seriously. We literally had to get up and just leave because it was getting to be a problem where we lived. We were being followed and stuff like that. And since we got here, things have been fantastic. It has been beautiful. And it feels like the energy has completely cleared up. And back in Texas, we just felt sick all the time. We felt like we were being stalked and followed because we ended up with trash on our front lawns all the time.
People would throw trash in our yard every single day. We lived in a nice neighborhood.
Yeah.
People would throw trash in our yard every single day. Just our yard. Not any of the other neighbors.
We had a 4-bedroom house at the time.
Yeah.
And we had trash literally being thrown in our yard. And
we'd get up and our tires were flat.
Yeah.
Not slashed. Just flat. Just somebody let the air out.
Somebody let the air out.
Right. And when I move into a neighborhood, I really don't talk to the neighbors too much. I'll say hi. I know everybody preaches, get to know your neighbor, but I'm more the type to where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do my thing, you do your thing. I'm not going to bother you. You don't bother me. And that's cool. So none of the neighbors had a reason to hate me. None of the neighbors even knew me.
Mm-hmm. Why, how come you're not into getting to know the neighbors better? It's a paranoia
anything
thing?
that I've learned from the alternative media scene is that people fuck your shit up. So it's
Anyone?
Well, and it's not just that. I mean,
all the people that have attacked us were people that we tried to help at one point in time. So
that sounds familiar.
exactly. And now it makes you wonder again, is this part of their mission? Is this part of their mission is so they come in and they get you first, and then they give you this really, really bad taste in your mouth. And then you get other people that you potentially help and help rise up, bring up, exchange links, have them on the show, et cetera, et cetera. And then you're going, no, I really don't want to get involved with anybody, blah, 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 blah. I mean, it's division at its finest.
yeah, but we since we've been here, we've met some people. We've made a few friends.
Yeah.
It's just that we don't want people to get too close to the point where they're asking us for stuff all the time and where they could take advantage of us, because we've had that happen very often since we got together. And it's not being mean. I mean, I used to live in this house that next door was this lady that came over one day and said, "Oh, my car's broken down and my kid's too late to go to daycare. Can you watch him until I get back? I have to go for a job interview," or something like that. And she didn't come back till like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. And apparently she lied and she was really just out, shopping and stuff like that. And ever since then, I just don't really trust neighbors very much, and I don't want to let them take advantage of me like that.
Yeah. Anybody can become an agent of the Matrix. That's the theme.
I like the way you put that, agent of the Matrix. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, we're not worried about the stuff that we do here as far as the radio show and the stuff we talk about. A lot of people are so scared the government's going to come and get you. It's no, the alternative media is going to come and get you.
Yeah.
Those are the ones who are going to get into your shit.
That's the real mafia going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it doesn't get personal, that's what people need to realize. I think it works much more on a personal level. Your friends, your neighbors, your family, like that's what's really going to affect your life.
Right.
Not the federal government. Watching everything you do. Now, gosh, there's so much more to talk about. I wanted to keep this to an hour. We're at about 2-3 minutes away. So just give me a final message. Plug your stuff, whatever you want to do to close us out here.
Kiss the one you love right now, because you never know when the last time is going to be.
Well put, well spoken. And people can hear. When is your show actually on? You said it's Fridays?
Fridays and Saturdays, 8 to 11 p.m. Central Standard Time. 8
to 11 p.m. Just come and streaming right through your website, right?
truthfrequencyradio.com.
That is your network.
Yes.
Also, we have a mobile app, and that would be at ktfrn.com/mobile.
Yes. And I really appreciate the opportunity because, I don't know, a lot of the stuff I've had on my mind that I haven't been able to express just simply because we don't talk about this kind of stuff on the show. But I'm really, really glad you asked.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so privileged to have you guys on here. I hope we can do more. I really do.
If people want to read it, it's an article called "Another American Freedom Radio Show Host Exposed as an Informant." Keyword there is another. So that is the article which created the shitstorm.
I'm going to check it out right this minute, I think. So much information you guys are bringing. It's really great stuff. I'm glad we could do this. And that's about it. I hope we can do this again, like I said. And best of everything to you guys.
Back to you. You're doing great work. We appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys
take care.
In a cage with invisible walls, the wicked zeitgeist of life making grown men crawl on their knees, begging please save us from the boogeymen funded by the CIA, funneled through Arabian banks like a shank to the neck. They hit you from the back, no sweat. Hold check and watch us shake and take away your freedom. You really don't need them when you're tucked away, safe and protected by FEMA. Man, you must be a dreamer like the great pretender. Ask the Second Amendment, why I'll never surrender, but I'll never plead the Fifth when it comes to September. I'ma yell it from the roof and expose the agenda. Time to wake up and open your eyes to the Matrix. This is going out to the troopers and patriots, living free and dying hard, speaking through battle scars. Unarmed army of one becomes a global resistance. Time to wake up and open your eyes to the matrix. This is going out to the truth as a patriot. Living free and dying hard, speaking through battle scars. An army of one becomes a global resistance. Like I was chosen by God, I was sent with a message to destroy the new world order and dispose of the wreckage. I've been broken and tested, reconstructed, invested, injected with truth. Now the truth has me restless, distressed and aggravated as I